Did you know that all of these whetstones were created long ago when the god Thor fought against a powerful giant named Hrungnir? This foul-mouthed giant rudely threatened that he would steal away Valhalla and bury Asgard, so Thor challenged him to a duel. Hrungnir equipped himself with a sturdy stone shield and a massive whetstone, which he rested upon his shoulder as he waited for Thor. But a servant of the gods warned the giant that Thor was travelling beneath the earth to attack him from below. The foolish giant put down his shield, and there was Thor rushing towards him. Thor hurled his hammer with all his strength at Hrungnir, who threw his massive stone at Thor. The hammer broke the stone weapon, and then it shattered Hrungnir's thick skull. Thor was victorious, though one piece of Hrungnir's whetstone crashed into Thor's head, becoming lodged in his skull. The other piece fell to the earth and shattered into countless pieces, and each of these are the whetstones that we humans use to hone and sharpen our blades. The dragon head carved into this pin reminds me of Thor's greatest enemy, but their first meeting was quite unusual. One day, Thor met a powerful giant named Loki, who declared that all his guests must prove themselves the best at some task. Thor declared that he was the strongest of all the gods, so Loki challenged him to pick up his cat. An exceptionally large cat appeared, so Thor reached under its belly and summoned his godly strength. But he barely moved the cat at all. He then tried again, reaching his arms up as high as he could beneath the cat, and using all of his divine might, he managed to lift just a single paw of the cat. That was when Loki revealed he had tricked Thor, for this wasn't a cat at all. It was the Midgard serpent, a venomous dragon so large it encircles the whole world. Lifting a single paw of the creature was the greatest feat of strength the world had ever seen. But Thor was very angry, and he raised his hammer, ready to smash the Midgard serpents. But in an instant, the dragon and the giant magically vanished, leaving Thor very confused. We like our meat here in Jorvik, but did you know that Thor has a pair of goats he can eat for dinner again and again? You see, Thor rides a chariot pulled by two goats named Tangrisnir and Tangnjostr, and when he grows hungry, he slaughters the goats and eats them. But fear not, for Thor places the goats' bones upon their skins, and then he raises his hammer to bless the goats' remains, which makes them spring back to life. However, on one occasion, Thor stayed at the house of a farmer, and together they shared the delicious goats. But the farmer's son, a boy named Thjalfi, was still hungry, so he cracked open a goat's bone to eat the tasty marrow inside. The next morning, Thor performed the spell to revive his goats, but one of them now had a wonky broken leg. Thor was furious, as you can imagine, and the farmer was terrified what might happen, so begged for forgiveness. Thor calmed himself and accepted payments for his wonky-legged goats. The farmer had no money to offer, so Thor took the boy Thjalfi as his servant, and he has served Thor ever since. Our metal workers are highly skilled, but none can match the talents of the dwarves, for it was they who made Thor's amazing hammer. Two dwarves were making 3 fantastic treasures for the gods, but Loki wanted to spoil them, so when they began their work, Loki magically transformed into a fly and bit one dwarf on the arm, though he easily ignored the pain. When they began crafting the next treasure, Loki bit him on the neck, but again he ignored the painful bites. Then they began creating their final treasure, a mighty hammer, and this time Loki bit the dwarf on his eyelid. The pain was indescribable, so he snatched his hands from his tools to protect his poor eye, and unfortunately ruined the hammer's handle. It was ridiculously short. But when it was presented to Thor, all agreed it was still an amazing treasure, as Thor could use the hammer to strike any target as heavily as he would like, and when he threw it at a target, it would never miss. Thor would use his hammer to protect gods and humans from evil. As for Loki, well, he ran away, and he didn't deserve a treasure. These hooks are great for catching big fish, but did you know that Thor once caught the largest sea creature ever? It happened when Thor was feasting with the giant Humir, who was quite alarmed by Thor's appetite, as he ate 2 bulls by himself. Humir announced they must fish for more food, but as Thor needed some bait, he grabbed the head of Humir's largest ox and tore it off. They journeyed to the furthest reaches of the sea, where Humir caught 3 delicious whales, whilst Thor placed the ox's head on his own hook and cast it into the deep, dark ocean. And then something bit it, something huge and powerful. It was the Midgard serpent, that venomous dragon that encircles the world. Thor dragged the monster to the surface as it thrashed about, which horrified Humir, who went pale with terror. Thor raised his hammer, ready to strike the serpent, but cowardly Humir cut the fishing line, and it escaped back into the ocean. Thor was, understandably, quite annoyed by this, so he knocked Humir into the water and threw his hammer after the dragon, where it bashed the monster on the head down in the depths. There's an image of Thor's famous hammer on this coin, but did you know that an enemy once stole his hammer? The thief was a giant named Thrym, and he would only return it if the goddess Freya would marry him. Freya was unwilling to marry Thrym, so alternative arrangements were made. Thor himself put on a wedding dress and journeyed to Jotunheim, declaring that he was Freya. Thrym rejoiced when he met his bride, and he arranged a glorious wedding feast, though he grew suspicious when Freya ate everyone's food. But he was told his bride hadn't eaten in days, as she was so excited to marry him. Thrym then went to kiss his bride, though he was terrified by the burning fury in her eyes. But then he was told that surely his bride's eyes were just tired because she was too excited to sleep. Thrym then ordered that the hammer be placed on his bride's lap as a blessing upon their marriage. A fatal mistake, for his bride picked up the hammer and smashed Thrym with it, before proceeding to smash every single giant at the wedding. And that was how Thor got his hammer back.